Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla and I like to talk about books. So today we're going to talk about The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan, which is the second book in the Wheel of Time series. So if you're interested in that, then definitely keep watching. So I'm going to start with a brief summary of the book. Obviously there are going to be spoilers, like I am going to be talking about the entire plot kind of the book and referencing a little bit the book before it as well. So if you're not interested in hearing some of those spoilers, then probably you shouldn't watch this video. After the summary, I'm going to go into my review and kind of some of the things that are different about this book compared to the last one, some of the things that are similar, and yeah, just kind of get into it. So I'll put some timestamps down below, and if you want to skip the summary and go right to the review, you can do that. If you want to not watch the review and just watch the summary, you can do that too. Totally fine. Timestamps will be below, but let's just get right into the summary. This book opens with Rand and Lan sword fighting. I don't know why this isn't really important, but I thought it was kind of a cool way to bring us back into these characters and remind us that Lan is a good warrior. I don't know. I just liked this introduction back into this world and these characters. I thought it was a really great way to kind of jump back into it and make it interesting. They're in some sort of Shayanaran city, I guess. This is not a good summary because I honestly don't remember the name of the city. The story really gets going when Rand is basically identified as the Dragon Reborn, and that's kind of what propels the story forward. They're off to get the Horn of Valir and the dagger that Matt got in the last book in that really scary city with all of the shadows. I think it was called Shalgul. I can't remember honestly, but it was that really scary city with all the shadows, and then that creepy guy who came out of the shadows, and that was the hardest part to read because the whole time we were no, don't take anything from this dude, don't talk to him, get out of there. But so Matt still had that dagger. He has a really weird attachment to it, kind of like the ring from Lord of the Rings, kind of those vibes where he's really attached to it. It's his precious, and I think basically now he's been infected, so he's gonna just get progressively worse until he dies, is kind of how I understand it. Anyway, so they are in this Shayanaran city. The idea of Rand being the Dragon Reborn is that he is it kind of is self-explanatory. It's a bit of a chosen one trope, but he will either kind of save the world or basically go evil and go crazy. I kind of like this twist on the chosen one trope, the chosen one storyline, because I feel it makes it a little bit more complicated, and it also feels it makes the stakes in some ways a little bit higher because you're not really sure whether or not he's going to end up being the chosen one and doing the good thing, saving the world, or not. I digress. They have to go find the Horn of Valir and this dagger. It's Matt, Rand, Perrin, and some Shayanaran dudes. There's this one guy that's a scent tracker. I forget his name too. Oh my gosh, oh frick, what is his name? So there's this one guy that can smell people's scents, and they're basically using him to go find where the horn and the dagger were taken, and because he can smell evil and death and destruction or something, I guess. They're also with this one guy Ingvar, who it's just kind of worth mentioning. I don't know, so they're with this guy, they're with the scent tracker, they're going to find the horn and the dagger. There's a bunch of little encounters and stuff like this that happen. They run into these Trollocs. Rand is separated with the scent tracker and Loyal from Perrin and Matt, and he actually enters into essentially an alternate reality, kind of Rick and Morty vibes, the best timeline kind of vibes. So he enters into this alternate reality, and everything's super creepy, and then that's when he kind of comes to terms with the fact that he has these powers, and then when they leave that reality, they end up in front of the people that they were separated from, and it's just really confusing. But basically they end up getting back together because Perrin, I don't know if you remember, if you've read the last book, in the last book Perrin meets this wolf dude, and it's just a whole weird creepy vibe. But anyway, Perrin has got wolf, he's part wolf basically now. I don't even know how to explain it, but he's got these abilities, sort of the scent tracking, where he can I don't know if it's he smells death and destruction, it's he can just track people's scents. So that's how they end up basically getting reunited, and then they all go to this like port city where they try to go get the horn back and the dagger back. And from there, there's a lot going on too, because there's like the Cheyennearans, and then there's like those really like religious people. Not the Cheyennearans, the Shanchen. There are the Shanchen and these really religious people who are like having a war, and the Shanchen end up in this port city as well. And basically, eventually they do get the horn and dagger back. The Shanchen come to attack, and Matt actually ends up blowing the horn for them to like escape. Which, I mean, side note, I feel like they kind of built up to the fact that like blowing the horn was a big thing throughout the book, and like, I don't know, I'm just really curious to see what the repercussions of that are gonna be like, possibly moving forward in the next books. But this like resurrects like a bunch of warriors and like fighters and stuff like this that they talk about in the book. One is like Arthur Hawkwing, I think is his name, something like that. But there's like a bunch of them, and it resurrects them, and they basically help them. But yeah, they escape, and I feel like I'm just really curious to see what like the repercussions of that will be, and like how we're gonna see that in the next book. But before I'm like done with my summary, I want to move on to the Aes Sedai and kind of what's happening with Egwene and Nynaeve in the book. So meanwhile, Nynaeve, Egwene, and Moiraine go to Tar Valon, and they're basically going to go study to be Aes Sedai. That's like the Aes Sedai studying city. Kind of like, actually, if I can draw like maybe a similarity, it's almost like the Citadel in A Song of Ice and Fire. So it's kind of like that, and there's like a bunch of other young women like training to be Aes Sedai, and it's just worth noting that there are a lot there, but not that many end up like making it all the way through training, which I don't know, I love these parts. These were like my favorite parts probably of the book, but there are a lot fewer Aes Sedai just overall. Even though there are a lot of women there, there's just so many fewer than there used to be, and the numbers are like dwindling a lot. They mentioned this like quite a few times, so I think that it's obviously like a relevant thing that they're setting up in the fight against like dark forces and everything. Definitely something that I'm kind of bookmarking in my brain because I think it'll be relevant. But anyway, they make friends with like a few people there, most notably probably Elaine and Min. So Elaine is from a like noble and wealthy family, and Min is sort of like an androgynous character who seems to have sort of like psychic seeing abilities, something like that, because she knows and like can tell more than other people do. I don't really know how to explain it, but from what I can tell, she has clairvoyant, maybe is the word, abilities. Nynaeve and Egwene both show like a lot of really strong progress and such, and do this like testing where basically it measures their abilities, and they both like, it measures like really high. There's some other stuff while they're traveling, but basically the most important thing that kind of happens towards the end is Egwene gets captured by the Shanchen. Every time I say Shanchen, I like keep wanting to say Cheyennearans, and I don't know why. I'm so tired today. I'm definitely confused, and like I keep mixing up those two words specifically so much. But Egwene gets captured by like the Shanchen, and something happens to her that's basically called, I forget exactly what they call it. It's something with a D, but she gets like collared. And this is essentially like when an Aes Sedai gets like a collar put on them, and they're controlled or like enslaved, sort of, honestly. So the collar is a way for like their powers to be controlled and used, like I guess kind of against their will. But in the end, when all of the Shanchen are like attacking and the Matt's blowing the horn and all that stuff, Egwene does get rescued by Nynaeve, and yeah, anyway, her collar gets removed and she's no longer like collared by the Shanchen people. To be honest, I'm gonna head right into the review right now, so sorry that wasn't like the best summary ever, but a lot happens in this book, and I kind of just want to hit the high points. I don't know. It's hard to summarize these, but anyway, let's move on to the review. There's a lot to like about this book, honestly, and some things I'd prefer were a little bit different, but I think overall I enjoyed my reading experience of this book so much more than the first book. And there are a couple reasons why I think that is, but one of them is, I think, just my own circumstances, which is that I used an e-reader for the first book, which I'd never done before, and I've never done since because I really didn't enjoy it. This book, I read the actual book paper copy, and it's not like a nice paper copy, but it definitely was so much nicer to just read the actual paper. And I also think that it just went into a lot more of the magic system and just kind of like how things work. I don't know, I guess just more world building occurred in this book and more relationship building. So one of the things that I enjoyed absolutely the most was learning more about like the Aes Sedai training culture, like all of the power dynamics within the Aes Sedai. That was super interesting, and it fleshes out the magic system and like the world itself, obviously. I also enjoyed the new characters that they brought into the story, into this storyline, particularly Min, especially because it was really good to see like diversity in characters, like a character that's more androgynous, especially within the Aes Sedai, which is obviously such a hyper feminine kind of circle, I guess. And also just to see characters that aren't just from Emond's Field also getting thrust into these circumstances. I really just like that Min has like kind of a different androgynous, unique, just really cool vibe. I also enjoyed Rand's story a lot. I don't want to say like a lot more in this because I really liked following him in the first book as well. I feel like his beliefs about himself and the world are challenged even more in this book. So definitely in the first book, his beliefs about the world, especially like there's a huge thing with like Rand not trusting the Aes Sedai, and he's still skeptical about them in this book, which honestly, on a side note, low-key feels sexist since it's like primarily women. Like there's something that feels weirdly like, I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like there's something like kind of sexist there. But anyway, in the first book, he's definitely unsure about the Aes Sedai. The second book, he's still like skeptical, but in the second book, he almost doesn't have, like, that's not even like a primary thing that he's thinking of, because he's grappling with his own ideas of who he is, which I think is so much more interesting to see. Because it's one thing when you bring like the small town boy into like all of these different cultures and different things that he's been told are scary or doesn't know anything about. It's a whole different thing when it's like him and he's being told like basically he's not who he thought he was, his like parents aren't maybe who he thought, like just all of these different things of like yourself, your own self-identity. And I feel like that was really interesting to see, to watch him kind of grapple with that. I liked that a lot because I think, as I said, the external struggles were interesting, but to have more of the internal struggles and to kind of come to terms with the fact that he like has certain capabilities, and like I liked that for his character. I think that that's good for like his character growth, and I'm very interested to see like where he goes in the next book, to be totally honest. Perrin was obviously another one who he had a little bit of that, but I think it obviously follows Rand a lot more. But I don't know, I'd be curious to see more about Perrin's storyline moving forward. Like all of the wolf stuff is interesting, but I feel like it doesn't get as much focus. I'm really interested with Egwene and Nynaeve as well. I think Nynaeve is kind of struggling in this book because she's not like, I don't know, I feel like with the whole Aes Sedai thing, like she did well, but it's not the same as like when she was Wisdom back in Emond's Field. And I think they kind of even touch on this, that it's hard for her to let go of the fact that like her status is different, and her status in relation to like the others is different, and her status in relation to Egwene is kind of different, so it's a little bit awkward. But I'm really excited to see what happens with Nynaeve and Egwene in kind of the next book. I liked their journey a lot more in this book. I'm excited to know more about the magic system, and I know that this is like a more complex magic system, so I think that we're going to get a lot more explanations, which I enjoy. I'm very excited and curious to see what's happening with Rand in the next book. And in this book, as I said, I enjoyed his journey a lot more. I think that because the foundation was laid a little bit more, this book just allowed further exploration of the characters. They already were like out of their comfort zone, like kind of externally, but I feel like a lot of them were taken out of their comfort zone internally in this book, if that makes sense. So I think, again, like with Nynaeve's struggles, with Rand like grappling with his identity, I think there was a lot more of the internal struggles and grappling with changes like within oneself, as opposed to like the external changes that they were mostly grappling with in the first book. So I think that just lends itself to a more complex, kind of intriguing story. Yeah, I'm just really excited to see where things go in the next book, what more we learn about the magic system, more Aes Sedai content, content, please. Like, honestly, more Ace Today content all day, every day. And yeah, that's probably what I'm most interested in, and that's okay. But for now, that's basically it for my review of this. Like I said, I enjoyed a lot more than the first book. Just in the reading experience was better. It delved a lot deeper into the world, and I'd be curious to see other people who have read it. Like, do you agree that this was better than the first one? Do you not like it as much? What are your thoughts on some of the characters and like their development in this book? I think that's really what pushes it forward. But that's gonna be it for this video, so thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll let you know when I'm coming out with the next book review for this series. But other than that, I'll see you later.